assistance.
So we just saw the promo.
Yes, me too.
And and Obergruppenführer has, well, they have those cool divided
Yes.
between the two worlds.
I didn't know that was going to be part of the trailer. I thought it was a publicity thing, so I was interested to see that.
So what is that showing us? Is that
ask the publicity department.
the divide between the two?
I refer you to my original answer. Ask the publicity department.
Because that would be way too spoilery.
No, I just mean that that's a publicity department thing. I don't know. They just said stand here, now stand here.
Well, but at the same time, what I mean is, because in that image you had two different looks.
Sure, well that's a different question, but I'm not going to answer with refer to what that was, because that was a photo for, But I suppose what they were getting at, though I'm not sure. You see, generally I have that thing, anything like that's about an advertising campaign, or, prepared answers that are given to us by Amazon or whatever. I tend to be relatively rebellious about things like that, because my mind is generally my own business. My opinions are my opinions. So I have my opinions, which might not be state-sponsored, if you know. And, as far as I'm concerned, Smith is a divided person. But not divided in the way the publicity campaign might be suggesting. So maybe reframe the question or something, and I'll answer that. But otherwise, because the way I would describe the character as being divided is not divided by that one set of clothes and another set of clothes as it is in that photograph and then that image.
I think one of the very interesting things about the show is that most of the characters live in shades of gray. Even the characters that we are initially introduced to, especially Smith, who initially seems very, very black and white. As the show goes on, we've learned to see the shades of gray that he exists within, and he is faced with some very difficult decisions regarding his son and his higher ups and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about how that's going, the aftermath of some of those decisions?
Yeah, I never saw, it may seem perverse of me, but I never saw Smith as black and white. In fact, when I read the pilot alone, I wasn't really inclined to accept the job, even though I needed a job at the time, because it seemed very much, you'd notice from watching the pilot, that he was as close to classic bad guy as you get in that first pilot. And though the show was very well written already and it was quite a captivating read, I wasn't sure I wanted to, once I knew that the character had been added and wasn't in the original book, all the signs were pointing to him being a generic, one-dimensional villain that serves as a mechanism to hold the thing in place. I thought, great, but I don't want to be doing that again after all these years, And then I saw episode 2, which had already been written, which had a scene with the family, and then there was an attack from his perspective, and I suddenly, all the stuff that Frank Spotnitz had told me suddenly seemed like it might be true, that they wanted to exploit him as a kind of everyman in the wrong uniform, So that for me, I suppose the reason I'm not interested in responding to a question that's based off an advertising campaign, i.e. one costume representing this and the other costume representing that, because that's an oversimplification. I don't really go along with it, because I believe that he's just as grey a character in the SS uniform. There's just as much confused good man trying to get out of that as there is conflicted bad man trying to get out of the daddy side. It's grey all over, and for me, trying to avoid the easy, obvious kind of kitsch version of the dad knows best versus the Nazi. When, for example, the iconography and the costumes and the scenery all ape so kind of wittily that 50s sitcom vibe, I was always very, very careful to try to maintain that we weren't a cookie cutter family in that vibe, even if that did seem like a nice kitsch way of making a point. But I wasn't interested in that they were just as complex as a family as any other family was, even if it seemed more cute to make them perfect so the counterpoint worked better. Do you know what I mean? So I think all over he's complex. I've believed from the start that he's quite conflicted, even if it doesn't necessarily get a chance to show. That's what's motivating me through the whole thing. The fact that in season 1, for example, By the way, I should have warned you once I start talking. I don't think it's in season 1, in episode 6, when Wegener, his old friend, comes round for VE Day and starts to talk about the past and his sense of shame about what they'd witnessed together. The fact that John Smith reacts in such a closed down way is not because he has no qualms and has no conscience. He has a massive amount of conscience and doubt. He just can't handle it. And his way of handling it is the opposite. He holds the mask tighter because the idea that any chink of light or air that got in there would make everything fall apart. And I think that makes him quite dangerous. I mean, I've even forgotten the question. It's hard to stop talking.
No, that's right there. He puts it all in an iron box and has to bury it.
Exactly, and it makes, the doubting fundamentalist can be is often the one that they stick the bomb on. You know what I mean? He's quite dangerous, but I like to think where he may end up is unpredictable. I think I like to think he could go anywhere. Who knows if that would be borne out by the writing, but, I hope so.
Quickly expand on that whole topic is, you see it a lot of, in life, I guess, that a father role, some people don't know how to separate work and being a father, right? So you can kind of see that now he's in a situation where he's going to be a pretty important part in his son's life because we don't know what the consequence is because I guess the rules of the land say you have to do X and he's going to not want to do that. So do you think, I assume in season 2 we're going to see that develop, but how tough is that to put on one man's shoulders when he didn't even tell his wife about it yet?
Well, I think John Smith is a pragmatist, and I think, I've been already kind of maybe expressed this before earlier on today, because I'm just formulating the idea, but I think in terms of alternate histories, I think Smith is a kind of living embodiment of an alternate history, because he is someone who, on the outside, has one history, and on the inside is the Smith that he would have been. And those two things kind of run counter to each other. On the inside is the good man who was fighting on the side of the Yanks, who wanted to protect his family up until 1945, and then it splits off. And I think he's in constant unwilling dialogue with that. And I think, I consider it my job to be constantly reminding the writers, especially the new writers, not to write him as, I don't think he's gung-ho for the sake of being gung-ho. I think he has taken on this thing as a way of, he believed it was the right expedient thing to do to protect his family, to protect, when it was in his head, the idea between, the choice between letting America have a succession of nuclear warheads dropped on every major city until the populace was decimated, or capitulate quickly. And he thought that was the safer thing to do. And he's gone along with everything since then and managed to tell himself that it was the right thing to do. And he's accepted slowly, like the way people do, a lot of horrible ideas, but still battles with himself. And I think his son being ill, I think he's not an unastute man. And I think he is aware of the vicious irony of the fact that the machine that he's surrounded around his family to protect them might actually need to eat one of his children to survive. I don't think he's unaware of how kind of Greek he is.
Did he have a certain amount of confidence at the beginning of season 1 that the system around him was something that he could trust and that he had a good spot in that hierarchy, and now that's all been
to a certain
blown out?
extent, but I don't think someone like him gets to where he is by trusting anything or taking anything or anyone at face value. I don't think he is blindly accepting of any truth that is offered to him or anyone else's description of it. I think he's an exceptionally bright person and is always reading between the lines for advantage of it. So yes, I think he's hooked himself to what he believes is the safest side, and he's managed to find a little niche for himself. I think what happens takes him by surprise, but I don't think he's complacent. I think he's dangerous, and I don't think he's not. He's not complacent. That makes him even more dangerous. I think. I mean, I'm talking off the top of my head. That's what I think.
Well, that's the great thing is that the writers then can adapt it to your portrayal. And you said there were some new writers.
Well, exactly.
Have they done that?
Yes. Well, because the show expands, and one of the great potential things about a show like this is that the writers write great stuff. You start to act, and then things happen, and then that kind of weird alchemy happens between actors, and moments will happen that the writers then respond to, and then you start feeding into each other, so they end up picking up on your cues as well unconsciously, in an ideal world.
To kind of piggyback off that a little bit, because I'm very interested in this new era of television, the way that these series are coming out, streaming, whatever it may be, and people are now on the mainstream much more aware of the idea of a showrunner. And for these kind of things, I never knew about it. So when you have a question about like your character, a thought on your character, do you go to the showrunner, the writer, the director?
Speaking as a jobbing English actor over the years, I never knew what a showrunner was. I love, the Hollywood Reporter or Variety to explain to me all these words like lensing and helming, that have developed. Like, I'm not even sure that what a showrunner is that clearly defined. Whether it's the head writer or whether it's a producer. In England, it's not always the case that there is what we have come to know as a showrunner. I don't believe that anything that we think is essential is essential, But as was alluded to in the panel, with this show in particular, there's been an incredible relationship between the actors and the writers and the showrunner. Input about the ownership of our roles. I mean, I feel to a certain extent that not just I, but all of us have kind of willed our. I believe that what's been wonderful about this is that there's a lot of what's happened has been an act of will on behalf of the writers and the actors. That never before have I experienced something whereby your input is encouraged. There's no defensiveness about it. So, and luckily we have a cast, but there doesn't seem to be anyone who's trying to win the game. Everyone really, really fights for it to be the show that we want it to be, the show that we want to be proud of. We don't necessarily even. I would rather an episode was right, even at the expense of my being in it. Because I want to be in something that I think is great. I don't need to be the biggest thing in something average. I'd rather be just occasionally popping up in something that I'm really proud of. It happens really rarely, maybe never. I mean, and so I'm very proud of us in that regard. But it seems to have worked out to be a system that there is our input is very valued. And because I think it's clear now that we're coming from the right place, no one's trying to gain advantage. People just really care.
Are there some characters in season 2 that you get to interact with that you maybe didn't get to interact with in season 1?
Yeah, that's one of the pleasures of it. That actually season 1's a little bit lonely for me. I had my family and Chela was downstairs. My wife was wonderful. We get on really well. Plays my son and all the family are really fantastic actors, and it was great material. But aside from that, chances are if you were in the office, you might not make it. I would make friends with these actors and think, probably going to kill you soon, But and it was great, but I was rather kind of jealous of all that, having fun with each other. It is often the lot. It is the lot of the bad guy to be. I remember years ago on The Knight's Tale, dressed in my black armour at the baddies' end of the field, looking at them all having such fun, and I couldn't quite make out what they would do, but I knew they were having a great time. But with this season 2, Julian Crane, as is clear from the trailer, has to come over to my side. I'm really happy about it. This is the person. It's nice to hang out with her and act together, and not only her, but some interesting interaction occurs later on, which for me is a treat, but I think it's great for the audience.
This is something I'd actually discussed before you came over, but one of my friend's favorite characters is Javert from Les Mis, and you're her favorite character in the show, and she finds a lot of parallels with Javert and Smith because of the law aspect and his desire to really follow the law and have that structure, but there's this chaos that is now coming into play, and it's starting to break down some of the things that he desperately wants to keep in structure and to keep his family safe and to keep his worldview intact.
Yeah.
How is that? How does that come into play in these chaotic?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily go along with that 100%, though I understand how it looks that way, because I don't believe he is someone who needs the law to be the law. That's the best gig in town, and he wants to protect his family. Oh, absolutely. I don't believe he is like, I don't believe that he is someone who, if history had been a different way, would be someone, wouldn't be a policeman somewhere. I think, as a soldier, he was a really popular guy with his men. I believe he's a guy's guy. People like him. He's, that you might see that side of him. It's a shame for me that you didn't get more opportunities to show him with his underlings being a great guy. And not because I'm making some case for Nazis. I'm making a case for humans about how this is how it happens. And this is why the world is confusing. Because, the war didn't happen because Germany happened to contain all of the evil people in the world from between 1932 to 1945. It very nearly happened, America, there was plenty of people in America who wanted to join in. The royal family in England wanted in, It could happen and may be happening all over the world, all the time, and there's a responsibility to humanize. Now, I guess I went off on a tangent, but all I'm really saying is, it's not because he's just a lover of order. No, if the war had gone a different way, who knows what he'd be doing. It's just, if you're going to be in the Nazi party and you're going to do well, you stick by those rules. All the people who ended up in the SS or ended up high up there, they weren't people who would naturally have been doing that. It manages to find that in people and bring it out. It finds normal people and brings that out of them, people who otherwise would be good. So I don't think he has a natural predilection for like orders are orders. I don't think so.
Thank you so much for that. I think I'm going to pull you away now. Sorry.